Good morning. Welcome to Monday. I'm John Zimney in the MNC News Center. Good to be with you here on this June the 3rd, 2024. And the news continues with our top local stories on Michiana's Morning News. An evidentiary hearing on competency for a man accused of trying to kill his father took place last week in Elkhart County Circuit Court.
Dominique Edwards is accused of shooting and injuring his father, Anthony Shaw, while at Shaw's house in Elkhart in November of 2020. According to the Goshen News, witnesses said Edwards grabbed a pillow, went to Shaw's bedroom, and fired a gun through the pillow at him. They said witnesses described Edwards as acting strangely and possibly being on drugs. Another man reportedly tackled Edwards and knocked the gun out of his hand before chasing him out of the house. He was arrested in December of 2020, and his jury trial remains scheduled for November 4th. Alyssa Foster, MNC News.
A special prosecutor will handle a South Bend murder case involving misconduct allegations. Jeremy Munn is seeking to overturn his 130-year sentence for killing Jarena Bailey. His attorneys claim the St. Joseph County Prosecutor's Office fed information to jailhouse informants who lied to secure convictions. The judge appointed a special prosecutor but dismissed conflict of interest claims. The bench trial is expected by the end of the year. 3 people were hurt in a crash Saturday afternoon near County Road 1 and County Road 26. Police say a 47-year-old Mishawaka man blew through a stop sign at the intersection, then hit a vehicle driven by an 81-year-old Wakarusa man. The 2 drivers and a passenger were taken to the hospital with injuries ranging from bleeding, rib, and back pain. The city of Mishawaka will begin work on several Twin Branch area roads starting tomorrow.
They'll be working on utility and right-of-way improvements. Vistula Road between Terry Lane and Charles Street will be closed to all traffic through August 16th, and Charles Street from Lincoln Way East to Vistula will be restricted to through traffic only during the same time span. They'll also be conducting sewer cleaning in preparation for pipe installations. The intersection of Bittersweet and Vistula will also have lane and turn restrictions during the process. Barricades and signage will be in place, but plan for alternate routes. Mike Wilson, MNC News.
Police in Greenfield have released their final assessment of a child who committed suicide due to bullying.
In Friday's press release, Police Chief Brian Hartman says criminal charges will not be filed in Sammy Toysh's death. Chief Hartman goes on to say that this is a tragedy, and there's enough blame that we all probably own some of this. Toysh's family has consistently put blame on Greenfield Intermediate School for not stepping in earlier, but the police investigation concludes the school did address the issues. Greenfield PD says if your child is being bullied, they're always available to assist. Sammy Toysh was just 10 years old. Donnie Burgess, Network Indiana.
And checking political news this morning, more reaction after the verdict against Donald Trump last week. The real verdict will happen in November when moderate to conservative voters will heavily influence whether Trump gets reelected. That statement coming from Senator Mike Braun after Trump was convicted in his so-called hush money trial.
The real decision on what this is all about, what it means to Americans, occurs in November. When this thing was orchestrated, it went through with almost no hesitation along the way that we've taken it too far.
Trump's sentencing is set for July 11th. Well, it's hard to find new information about the 2011 disappearance of Indiana University student Lauren Spearer, but one journalist believes that he has found some answers.
Corey Rossman was one of the men who last saw Lauren in Bloomington. In his new book, College Girl Missing, Sean Cohen says he found out about a new detail.
Corey Rossman, that he made a phone call at 3 a.m. while Lauren was collapsed on a curb.
Cohen says he found out who he made the call to, but that person Rossman spoke with couldn't offer any information about what may have happened to Lauren. Cohen hopes his new book will bring new attention to the case and maybe find Lauren so the Spear family can finally have some closure. John Herbeck, Network Indiana.
And in case you missed it, it was just minor injuries for a South Bend man whose car was hit by not one, but 2 trains.
It happened late Thursday night at the Logan Street Norfolk Southern Crossing. The driver reportedly told police he was crossing the tracks as the arms were coming down. He had nearly cleared the crossing when a westbound train hit his car. He says he then got out of the vehicle just before the car was struck by an eastbound train. Police are reminding drivers not to try to cross train tracks when the lights are flashing or the gates are coming down. Victor Garcia, MNC News.
The protesters arrested at Indiana University in April won't be charged.
55 students, staff, and other pro-Palestinian protesters were arrested by Indiana State Police between April 25th and 27th for violating IU's encampment policy. But it's that policy that has made the case against the protesters difficult. The Monroe County Prosecutor's Office says the constitutionally dubious way in which the policy was altered has created a situation in which the state would have a hard time actually convicting the protesters at trial. The encampment policy was quietly changed just about a day before the protests began. Donnie Burgess, Network Indiana.
A man has been charged with crimes, including attempted murder for stabbing another man and a dog. Police believe Keith Ball stabbed the two at a home on Douglas Road last Monday. The man was stabbed, said that he and Ball had been smoking meth before Ball stabbed him. The dog intervened, which led to it getting stabbed as well. Both are expected to survive. Ball has been arrested and taken to the St. Joseph County Jail. Wa-Nee school leaders have alerted police and parents about a bus driver who they suspect was driving while intoxicated while taking sub-students on a field trip to Grand Rapids.
It happened during Memorial Day weekend. The choir students departed on a private charter bus for their trip when the choir director and another teacher began to suspect that the driver was under the influence. They convinced the bus driver to pull over at a fast food restaurant in Schoolcraft, and when the driver's behavior became erratic, they called the police. The charter bus company dispatched a second bus, and the students and staff were safely returned home. The school says that it is actively collaborating with law enforcement and all organizations to make sure that any lost funds are recovered and returned. Tommy Lee, MNC News.
The bus driver, John Schmidt, was arrested for alleged operating while intoxicated. The Mishawaka Common Council has unanimously approved a proposed increase in electric utility rates. The plan will raise rates by 3.75%, or about $4 per year for taxpayers from 2025 through 2030. Council President Greg Hicksonbaugh admitted that the decision was difficult, but believes it is in the city's best interest as far as the residents go. The Goshen Board of Public Works has approved the installation of a baby box at the Goshen Fire Department Central Station on 2nd Street. Some concerns were brought up during their meeting last week, including financial and insurance liability concerns, but in the end, the board unanimously voted in favor of the agreement of the box. Former U.S. Senator Joe Donnelly will be returning to Indiana after stepping down from his role as U.S. ambassador to the Vatican.
The U.S. Embassy to the Vatican confirmed Donnelly will depart from the role on July 8th. Donnelly was confirmed as ambassador in 2022 after being nominated by President Biden. Donnelly previously served 6 years in the U.S. House and was elected to the Senate in 2012. Donnelly will arrive back in Indiana days before the state Democratic Convention. Heather Starr, MNC News.
And the American Heart Association is strongly encouraging at least one person in every Indiana household to learn CPR.
This week marks National CPR and Automated External Defibrillator Awareness Week, raising awareness about the tools that people can use to save the life of someone suffering from sudden cardiac arrest. A recent survey shows less than half of the respondents would feel confident performing either CPR or hands-only CPR in the case of an emergency. Because of that, the American Heart Association has set a goal of doubling the survival of cardiac arrest by 2030. Mike Wilson, MNC News.
A few areas of fog, but otherwise partly to mostly sunny skies today, and it's going to be a hot one. We're going to end up around 85 this afternoon. There's a slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm, but the best chance for showers and storms will be overnight tonight. We'll drop down to 67. We'll see some scattered showers tomorrow as well, with partly sunny skies and again a high of 85. I'm WSBT 22 meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
You can get the morning's top local news stories on demand by subscribing to the Local News Podcast. Go to 953mnc.com and click where it says On Demand.
Podcasts by Federated Media.